Hello, second grade. Today it's Wednesday's lesson, and remember we talked about the baggie that you had that I believe I dated for Monday. That was the wrong date. We're going to use that baggie today. So you should have a paper plate, and you should have one of these in your baggie. Okay? You're also going to need some scissors, a pencil, and then if you want, you can go back over your pencil once you're finished with a marker, a colored marker. So I actually have a black marker here. And you're also going to need a piece of paper. I took a piece of paper and I just folded it in half. So I'm only going to use a half sheet. But you can use a whole sheet if you need to. So remember Monday's lesson, we were just talking about time. Remember time on our clock? Remember, we have numbers 1 through 12, and you guys did an excellent job so far of counting from 5s all the way to 60. So I hope you've been getting more familiar with your clock. Today, what we're doing is we're actually making your own clock. So, like I said, I would like you to do yours in pencil, but mine's going to be in marker, but we're going to have you do yours in pencil in case you mess up. First of all, now that you should have your sheet of paper or half sheet, you need to draw 2 arrows. The arrows are going to be the hands of our clock. Now, if you remember from Monday's lesson, both the hands are not the same size. Remember, the hour hand is shorter than the minute hand. So, I did a rough outline of an arrow. Just draw yours the best that you can do. Okay, so if you notice I didn't make this arrow very long, I'm going to use this arrow for my hour hand. So now that I know I've drawn my hour hand, I know that I need to draw my minute hand longer than my hour hand. So, do another arrow. I'm going to draw mine side by side, that way I know it's longer than my hour hand. Okay, so I made mine look exactly like the one I drew before, except for you can tell this one has to be my hour hand because it's shorter, and this one's going to be my minute hand. Okay, so the next step is once you have these two, you need to cut them out. That's why we needed our scissors today. And they don't have to be cut out perfect. Remember how I showed you to cut quicker? Just turn your paper as you're cutting. We worked on that in class a lot. Okay, so not perfect, but close enough. So there's my hour hand. Now I need to cut out my minute hand. Okay, and when we are making our clock today, that is actually what your assignment is to make your clock. Almost got it. Okay, there's my longer minute hand. So the next step, now that you should have both of your hands, your arrows cut out, is to take your paper plate and we're actually going to start numbering it for your clock, okay? So remember, at the very top in the middle of your clock is the number 12. Okay, so here's my 12 at the very top. If I go straight down in the middle, I know that down here is my 6. So I'm going to go straight down and put my 6. Okay, my 12 and my 6. So, next, right after my 12, I'm going to start numbering. So, in between, let me hold my clock up so you can see what I'm talking about. In between, before we get to the next number, you see how they have these little tiny lines? Let's count how many. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? There's 4 of these little lines because when they get to where the 5th line should be, that's where your next number is going to go. Okay, so that'll help you spread your numbers apart because as you can see, they're not right next to each other. So I'm going to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then I drew my 5th one as my number. Okay, so I did 1, 2, 3, 4, and then see how my 5th one has my number underneath it? So I'm just going to continue doing that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so keep going. So now 3. Okay, so I'm getting more numbers on there. 5 is a little sideways. Let me fix that. See, that's why you should be doing yours in pencil, and I really should too. That's better. Alright, keep going, because remember, we got to make it all the way back to the 12. I'm going. I'm at my 9, so I need to keep going until I get to 12. Okay. So I started running out of a little bit of room here, so I squeezed it in. So if you have to do that, that's okay too. So I've got my 1 through 12. This is our next step. We have to take our hands of our clock that you should already have cut out. And we're going to take this brass fastener and in the middle of our clock, so in the middle of the circle, you're going to punch a hole through it, okay, with your fastener. Because we're going to attach the hands of our clock to the paper plate so that we can actually have a clock that we can move around. And this part is a little harder because the paper plate tries to move on you a little bit. So if you need help from a parent, that's definitely okay by me. Alright, got my hole here. So I'm going to put my minute hand on first. And then I'm going to put my hour hand, remember the smaller hand, on second. Because I want to be able to see both, and the reason being, if we put our hour hand on first and then the minute hand on top, you wouldn't be able to see the hour hand because remember it's shorter. Alright, just a minute here. Gotta get my fastener to work with me. Which it's not wanting to do today. Alright, and once again, kind of like what we did with our maze, when you poke it through, make sure when you're holding your plate, you aren't poking yourself when that metal fastener comes out through the back. Okay, and when it comes out, oops, mine popped right back out. When it comes out through the back, you're going to want to fold down each side, that way it stays in place. Which I am ready for that part now, so that's what I'm doing. Okay, so it might have bent up your paper plate a little bit too when you push it through, but you can just straighten it back out. So here's mine. Okay, you can definitely see my two hands. Here's my shorter hour hand and my minute hand. I poked it through and all I did was bend the two parts like this so it can hold it. So now you can actually move your hands around on your clock carefully so the paper doesn't rip. And your parents or grandparents or whoever you live with can ask you to make certain times on your clock for more practice. Okay, so this is your assignment today. I want you to show me your clock that's fully completed like mine is, and you can just take a picture holding your clock and send it to me on Dojo, okay? All right, that's all for today, and I will see you guys again Friday.